Hey. I want to talk about problem solving really quickly. I love to solve problems. I love the challenge of it, and I really love working with other people to get to a solution. But I want to give you a warning about solving problems. A lot of times when we're looking at a challenge, we are so caught up in the symptom of the problem, how the problem manifests, that we forget to look for the source of the problem. And sometimes the source of the problem is very simply the answer to the problem. So I was doing this a couple of months ago. I feel real silly about this, but I'm going to tell you what I did. I've got one of those little wax lamps in my guest room, and it gives off the scent. And I went into the guest room one night and I turned that on, and it didn't come on. I flipped the switch and the light doesn't come on. And I messed around with the bulb and still nothing. So I, next day or that weekend, journey down to the store, get a pack of bulbs and screw in a new bulb, flip the switch, nothing happens. Get a different bulb from the pack, nothing happens. And at this point, I'm really irritated, and I'm looking at this thing. I've only had it about a year or so, and I can't believe that it's broken. It never occurred to me to see if it was plugged in. That's right. I went down to the store. I spent all this time, and I didn't check the most obvious thing, that it wasn't plugged in. Now, I didn't unplug it. Somebody was using the guest room and plugged in something else and unplugged that lamp. So that's why it didn't immediately occur to me to check to see if it was plugged in, because I knew I didn't unplug it. Now, here's what I'm talking about. I spent so much time trying to solve the symptom, no light, that I didn't look to see what the other possibilities were for the fact that there was no light. The most obvious one was the bulb was out. But once I changed the bulb once, I didn't inspect everything. I didn't look at the bulb. I didn't look to see if it was plugged in. And I would have saved myself a lot of time and frustration. But this is something that we do in everyday life or our business lives. When we are trying to solve a problem, we get so caught up in the symptoms, and we start discussing, well, how do we stop the symptoms? How do we ease the symptoms? Instead of, what is the source of the problem? So when I work with people, I ask a lot of questions, and there'll be strange questions that people will sort of look at me and not really understand where I'm going, because I'm trying to get people to pull back the layer on what is actually going on, what is actually causing the problem. Because a lot of times a small change will lead to big outcomes if we just take a look at what is the actual source of the challenge. So that's why when I'm problem solving, I will halt on the symptoms or what I think are symptoms, and I'll either write down, and this is what I would suggest you do, I either mentally or physically write down what everything that everybody says or everything that I'm observing. So I write down all of the observations and about whatever it is. And then I can go through and try to determine what is a symptom and what is a cause. And so I'll ask people about various questions. Well, why did you do that? Or why is this like this? Is this always like that? Is that typical? What would you normally do? Is this average? And sometimes folks might get a little irritated or annoyed because they're so, again, focused on the symptoms. So my goal here is to help you figure out, how do you separate symptoms from cause? Just look at everything from a 360 perspective. Always be changing your perspective. So once you have that list of your observations, change your perspective. Look at it from a different angle. Come back to that list in another day and ask yourself, what's missing? If I had asked myself, if I had written down observations, no light comes on, these bulbs seem to be working, then I would have asked myself, what's missing? What's missing is electricity. I didn't check to see if it was plugged in. So that's that. Please, be sure to follow me, and let's continue this conversation. I'm Nile Harris, and I look forward to talking to you soon.